Hi, I'm Justin Boyd.
I'm Brittany Pacheco.
Marcy Gonzalez.
And we are the Watchers in the Basement.
Welcome to the Watchers in the Basement. We are here today to talk about, or better yet, we're here to get you ready for Deadpool and Wolverine. Now, I know I'm already ready. I've already bought my tickets for the movie, and it's a little under 2 months away. It comes out in June,
Wow.
July 26th. So I've already got tickets for the first couple showings because can't wait for this movie.
That is a dedicated fan right here, y'all. You're making the rest of us look bad.
when those things go on sale, I buy them right away.
Yep.
So, but to get you ready for Deadpool and Wolverine, we decided to review all of the Wolverine and Deadpool movies in chronological order, and just thought it'd be a fun way to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And just so happens that the first one we're going to talk about today actually features Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool and Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, which, the tagline for Wolverine and Deadpool, or Deadpool and Wolverine, is like, they're coming together. They've already been together, although it was a very different version of Deadpool. We'll get to that later. That's right. Today we are here to talk about X-Men Origins Wolverine. Release date May 1st, 2009. So just 15 years ago. It's the fourth movie in the X-Men film series. It's the first Wolverine solo film, and it's a spin-off / prequel to X-Men and X2, which came out in 2000, 2003, respectively. But for me, it's also the first X-Men film since the MCU began. So, this is when the superhero movie craze really, really kicks in gear, and we really start getting, some of the best movies in this genre ever made. So, I don't think this movie is in that class, but we'll get to that in a little bit. A budget of $150 million. It made a box office of 373, so it did pretty well.
Yeah.
Runtime, 1 hour, 47 minutes. I like that. You know me.
Yeah.
I like, if you can give me 90 minutes, hour 45, I'll take it. Rotten Tomatoes score, not too good. 38%, making it one of the lowest X-Men films on the tomato meter. Directed by Gavin Hood. Zack Snyder, however, was approached to do this movie. He turned it down to do Watchmen. I kind of wonder how that movie would have been different with Zack Snyder. I don't know that it would have been better, but it would have been different. The script was written by David Benioff, and as we all know, David Benioff from Game of Thrones fame. David Benioff, he pursued this project for almost 3 years before he was hired to write the script in October of 2004. So he was hired almost 5 years before the movie came out. He wrote the script. It was, however, rewritten by a man named Skip Woods. And then Hugh Jackman also took a crack at it, as did Suicide Squad director David Ayer. So a lot of cooks in the kitchen with the script. That might be one of the reasons why the story is kind of uneven. And of course, the cast includes Hugh Jackman, Liev Schreiber, Danny Huston, Lynn Collins, will.i.am from Black Eyed Peas, Dominic Monaghan, Kevin Durand, Taylor Kitsch, Daniel Henney, and of course, Ryan Reynolds. Marcy, what did you think about this film? And also, do you remember the first time you saw this movie?
I don't remember the first time I saw it. It was a long time ago. I don't think it was like when it first came out, but it had been a while, and I don't think I'd ever seen it all the way through in one sitting. So it was good to just do that. But I definitely remembered some of the parts. I was like, oh yeah, I've seen this. Like you, Justin, I loved that it was an hour and 45 minutes. It wasn't too long. I can dig that because some of the superhero movies now are way too long. But overall, I mean, it was better than some of the X-Men movies that I've rewatched recently, like the first one and then like X2. So still kind of cringy, but not terrible.
That's fair. Brittany, what about you? What are your thoughts? And did you see this movie in the theaters by any chance? When was the first time you saw it? What do you think about it now?
I did not see this movie in theaters. I mean, I was definitely a fan of Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. I was a fan of X-Men, but I do not believe I saw this movie in theaters. Definitely saw it on TV later, whether it was on one of those channels that has commercials and what have you. So for me, for whatever reason, as much as I love watching movies, I never really saw this movie in its entirety until about 3 days ago. Crazy. I know. I can't believe it myself. The very fact that one, it's been out for 15 years. Two, it's been on streaming services for quite some time. And three, I have just seen bits and pieces and it's always the same place when I've, caught it on TV, right? And it's always at the very end when we see Ryan Reynolds fight against Hugh Jackman, their characters respectfully. So it's just like, okay, what's the point? So finally having the opportunity to sit and watch it in its entirety. There's parts of it I like. There's parts of it that are a little wonky, especially given the fact that this movie came out years after the very first X-Men. And I'm looking at the CGI and I'm just like, wait a minute, this CGI looks terrible compared to the older X-Men, right? And I'm like, how? Why is this so bad?
Right.
Then of course, doing research on the movie and the reasons behind why they decided to do CGI for, let's say, the adamantium claws as opposed to using like prosthetic type things. It's like, oh yeah, it just looked better. And I'm like, it did not. Like it looked worse. Anyway, that's beside the point. But overall, the movie is fine. It's definitely not great. I like the variety of actors. I totally forgot that will.i.am was in this movie until, of course, watching. And we have freaking Mary from Lord of the Rings who's in this movie as well. So that for me is just fun. I always have more fun looking at these actors and it's like, oh, wait, I've seen you before in other things. And like, why are you in here? Is just kind of funny to me. But overall, yeah, I liked the beginning part of it, giving that backstory of Victor Creed and Jimmy Logan, right? So that was fun, but there are parts of it that definitely could have been improved.
Yeah, no, I agree with you as far as like this movie is better at the beginning and then it really kind of fades toward the end. And also there's so many characters I forgot were in this movie. I haven't seen this movie in several years. I did not see this movie in the theaters either. Brittany, you kind of said it well about how it's a TV movie. This to me is a back in the day Spike TV Saturday afternoon movie where you got nothing to do.
Yes.
This movie's on for a couple hours. It's
background noise.
It's entertaining enough. Hugh Jackman's great in this movie, by the way. Like
oh
this
God,
is
yes.
up to this point, this is probably his best. I mean, obviously it's a solo film, so it's focused on his character, but this is really when he starts becoming, Logan, the Wolverine, is in this movie. He's great. The rest of it's kind of a mess. There's so many characters. The way Deadpool is kind of introduced is wacky and not really with the character's origin or just who the character is in the comics. Not what Ryan Reynolds wanted to do either. And we'll get to that in a little while.
But he still put his little spin on it, which I
Definitely.
appreciate. So
no, when he played when Ryan Wilson is Ryan Reynolds is Wade Wilson.
Ryan Wilson? Okay.
Yeah. When he's Wade Wilson at the beginning of the movie, it's great.
Yeah.
Honestly, those are probably my favorite parts of the movie.
Fantastic.
But yeah, this is not one of the better ones. But like we mentioned, none of us saw the movie in theaters. Some people saw the movie before it came to theaters because this movie was actually linked. It was leaked online back in March of 2009. So almost 2 months before the movie came out in theaters, a full-length DVD quality work print of the film was released. And basically the full movie. It was the entire movie, but the CGI is even worse. It wasn't totally finished. You can actually find the ending of this movie. It's online. I watched it today. It's pretty rough. I mean, it's not really fair because it's a work print. It's not the final film, but yeah. So this movie was out there, according to 20th Century Fox, an estimated 4.5. The movie was downloaded 4.5 million times before it was released in theaters. So they probably lost a pretty nice chunk of change just because of that. And also the fact the movie, it's the exact same movie. When it was leaked, the director and some of the producers said, "Oh, that's not the movie. We've got different scenes. It's a totally different movie. It's the exact same runtime. It's the exact same movie, except for the movie that came to the theaters obviously looks finished and is, looks like a movie. But yeah, so that definitely hurt the movie. By the way, the guy who actually leaked the film, the FBI found the guy. He was sentenced to 1 year in federal prison. So don't
just
mess
just 1
with,
year.
just one. I mean,
Very
yeah.
short.
Federal
pretty
prison
sure.
though, that doesn't sound great to
I
me.
mean, I'm sure he had fines to pay as well, but like,
yeah.
he's probably
So
like worth it.
anyway, I thought that was pretty interesting about this movie because I do remember when that happened. I probably didn't see this movie until like maybe 2011 though. So it was a couple years later when I saw it. So interesting stuff. You don't have that happen very often with a major motion picture. You know, this is a summer blockbuster type film. So
No, that just reminded me of Game of Thrones season 8 when all the episodes were periodically being leaked, but they were being leaked like in sections, so you weren't
yeah.
getting them in order. But I distinctly remember the one that I like to call the Loot Train, that episode, watching it out of order and still like understanding what was happening.
Oh
So
yeah.
to watch an entire movie from start to finish,
Mhm.
you know, continuity wise, what have you, and then it's like it's the same damn movie you're gonna get in theaters. That's a little it's a little flat.
Except for some scenes, there'd be a card that would say "Insert CGI here." Like that, literally, that's what happened. So
Insert here.
yeah,
Adamantium here.
right. There we go. Yeah.
I love that.
So let's talk about the cast of this movie. Obviously, Hugh Jackman continuing to play Wolverine. Also, like Brittany said, he was little Jimmy, little Jimmy Hallett, who becomes Logan. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Hugh Jackman, who's also a producer on the film, earned $25 million for this film. So very lucrative for The Greatest Showman. He did pretty well with this movie.
I love how you said that.
Yeah. Appreciate it. Let's talk about I would say villain, but he's not the ultimate villain. Let's talk about Victor Creed, aka Sabretooth, which Sabretooth was in the first X-Men movie, played by a different actor. Liev Schreiber played.
It's actually pronounced Liev.
Okay. Well, I know him as the voice of Hard Knocks on HBO, the NFL training
that's
camp
right,
show.
he is.
And he's also Ray Donovan. Marcy, what did you think about Liev Schreiber in this movie?
It was a great performance. Obviously, the character is terrible and did atrocious things, and I'm glad that his brother was wanting to, call him to task on that. But no, it was a really great performance by him, and just the way that he and Hugh Jackman were able to play that, like you believe that they were like brothers and had a relationship, and still, if you're doing something bad, I'm going to call you out on it and want to stop you. And also, like, I'm trying to hunt you down because I'm killing all of the rest of the teammates that we had. So interesting dynamic that they had, but no, solid performance.
Brittany, what do you think?
Oh yeah, no, I love Liev Schreiber as an actor, and then to see him play opposite of Hugh Jackman, which for me, this was the second time seeing them together, because there was another movie that they were in called Kate and Leopold that starred Hugh Jackman and Meg Ryan. But I think, if I read it correctly, that Hugh had suggested for Liev to be cast because he was the only other person that he felt could be equally competitive in that role. And so I think they were like constantly challenging each other on set to perform more and to do more of their own stunts. And I think they ended up doing about 85% of their own stunts, which is impressive. Liev had to bulk up in order to match that of Hugh Jackman's physique, because let's just be real. The man is jacked, right? Hugh Jackman lives up to that name, right? He is jacked. And I love that Liev actually wanted to work out and not have to wear a bodysuit and what have you. But I loved their performances together. That sibling bond seemed very believable. And I loved how, even though these two grew up not knowing they had the same parent, that you see just how opposite they are in some respects. I mean, they fought together in so many wars, but how Victor Creed was more bloodthirsty than Logan was. And it's hard. It's hard. You see like those highs and lows between siblings. And, I think we all have experienced that in one way or another, but their performances were fantastic. And I think that was one of my highs from this movie.
Yeah. Liev Schreiber, he's great in this movie. Like you said, he put on 40 pounds of muscle to kind of look the part. because he was offered a muscle suit, and after seeing Hugh Jackman in the flesh, he was like, I can't, like, this is ridiculous. So he took 3 months to get himself in the best shape that he could possibly be in. I did like how he runs on all fours like a saber-toothed tiger, I guess, or a saber-toothed cat or whatever. Like in if you think about it, that sounds ridiculous, but the way it's actually shown on screen, I think it actually works. So
Mhm.
um I don't know a ton of people that could have pulled that off, but he does a good job with that. Obviously, there's a lot of CGI involved in that too. But
The
yeah,
nails too. I mean, that's the thing that these
yeah,
two brothers have in common is that they have some sort of claw-like features to their mutation, and they both seem to be able to not really age, right? That the movie starts off in the 1800s. It's 1845 when it kicks off, and then you see them go through the Civil War, World War One, um, or
World War
World
II.
War Two, the 1970s when the Vietnam War was being had, and then of course the majority of the movie takes place 6 years later. So they don't age. Like I would love to have that mutation where we don't age. Like, hello, can I get that bottled up and take a sip? But that's really cool. But the fact that with the claws, like I said, Sabretooth has his nails as his claws, whereas Logan has the adamantium skeleton that comes out of in between his knuckles. So it's really cool because when you look at the nails, like freak me out. Like they look really menacing, and like you just know he's gonna like claw you to death and yeah. But I think that was really cool to tie in the fact that they are siblings, right? They share that similar feature.
Yeah, the nails were like creepy, especially because they were kind of like brown and dirty, obviously, because you're supposed to be a wild animal. So it creeped me out too.
For sure. And then they grew even further than what they normally were. It gave me kind of like vampire vibes because like vampires supposedly can do the same thing. Like they grow out their nails like to, do damage. So
Yeah. Yeah, no, the nails are pretty gnarly looking. He has the healing factor just like Wolverine. So yeah, very very cool character. Um, originally the character was played by Tyler Mane, who is a former professional wrestler who just, obviously Sabretooth in the first X-Men movie is only in the movie for a short period of time. And it was more about getting the physical look. But obviously Liev Schreiber is a more accomplished actor, and this is a bigger part. So it made sense why he would take over the mantle of this character. Moving on to another villain, let's talk about William Stryker, played by Danny Huston. So Brian Cox played the character. Good old Logan Roy. We could have had Logan Roy versus Logan again. It did not happen. Fortunately, no one knew what that was back in 2009. 15 years later, it's like, come on. We could have had Logan Roy versus Logan. It's right there. It's right there. So Brian Cox actually wanted to reprise his role. Obviously, he plays an older version of the character in X2 because, you know, this is a prequel before that movie. And he thought that they could do like a computer generated thing, similar to what they did with Patrick Stewart, Ian McKellen in the opening flashback of X-Men Last Stand. I don't know if y'all have seen that recently. I've watched that movie. That opening CGI of those two actors, wow, I don't think it looks bad. It looks weird. They don't look like people. Yeah,
for the time that movie came out, it
exactly.
was incredible. Like, holy shit. Like they actually de-aged these men to I just they did it so well. But yeah, you go back and watch it now, 20 something years later, and it's just like, oh, okay, that it's fine,
Mhm.
but it's very Madame Tussauds, like waxy sort of vibe, right?
They look soulless. Their eyes are like no, they don't. They look like robots or something.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty bad.
It's not great.
Danny Houston being cast as William Stryker, I have a problem with.
Okay.
I like him as an actor. Don't misunderstand me. But because Brian Cox delivered us a magnificent Southern accent, why wasn't that done by Danny? And y'all know me, continuity is key for movies. Okay, this isn't like First Class where they had cast a much younger man to be William Stryker during that time who actually did pull off the accent. Why wasn't that done with Danny? Like, dude, do your research. Like, make me believe that you're from the South, right? Ugh, that bothers me so much.
You know what? I watched X-Men Origins Wolverine twice this week, and I watched X2 last week. I didn't really pick up on the Southern accent from Brian Cox, so that I totally missed that. Maybe the directors and the filmmakers also did in this case.
I need you to do better, Justin. Marcy, what are your thoughts on Danny's performance, and what did you like? What did you not like, or is it meh?
The performance was good. I don't like him because everything I've seen him in, he is a fucking asshole. So like I already hate him.
Yeah.
Because he does that good of a job as an actor. I'm sure he hopefully is a lovely person, and Angelica Houston's brother comes from like famous like acting families. Dad is John Huston, famous director. So yes.
Wait. They're related?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shut the front door. Wow. I just
So yeah, like
here
he
on
does
the
a
pod,
great
y'all.
job, but I hate him in everything that I've seen him in, and he gets his comeuppance in Yellowstone. So great, always happy to see that. But I also, like you, Justin, I didn't pick up too much on like the Southern accent to where like I thought about it again and I was like, oh, that's not what the former Stryker did. So yeah, that wasn't very distracting to me, but it's been a while since I've seen X-Men. It's been like 3 weeks, so I put it out of my mind completely.
Fair enough. I'm just still mind blown that Danny Huston is related to Angelica Houston. Like, holy crap, that's incredible. Yeah, no, like I said, for me, continuity, like if you're going to cast a character and establish like a personality, an accent, certain traits about them, like make sure that when you're casting the younger version of that character, you make sure you tell them, do your homework and pull this off, or we're going to find someone else who can.
Yeah. Think about Danny Huston. If he's in a movie, he's going to be a bad guy. That dude just has a punchable face. People don't like him. He plays the villain in Wonder Woman also. He's, like you said, he's in Yellowstone. He's going to be in the Kevin Costner movie that comes out, or there's 2 movies that come out this summer, the Horizon Country Saga, the Western saga that Kevin Costner left, whatchamacallit for, the show, I just said the show. Yellowstone, yeah.
God.
So, yeah, so, Danny Huston, if he's in the movie, he's a bad guy.
I can name one movie just to counter that.
Okay.
He had a very small part in it. It was the Sofia Coppola Marie Antoinette. He played the Emperor Joseph, the brother to Kirsten Dunst's character Marie Antoinette, or Maria Antoine. But yeah, he wasn't a jerk there. Yeah, so he's got one, just one role.
Yeah. So, Brittany, besides this movie, what are your other favorite will.i.am performances?
Having actually seen the Black Eyed Peas perform at the Houston Rodeo many, many years ago.
In films.
I mean, you left it open, okay? Like,
I know, I did. That's fair. Yeah, you're right.
Has he been in anything else?
I don't know, honestly.
I haven't seen it, but I have seen him along with the Black Eyed Peas, like I said, in real life, many moons ago, like 2009. I don't know, but yeah, I kind of, it blew my mind to see him again. I'm like, oh yeah, he was in this movie, obviously, and to learn that will.i.am is actually a huge X-Men fan. So he has the powers very similar to that of Nightcrawler, but he's obviously not Nightcrawler. He was given a different name that has the same sort of transport powers. So will.i.am's character is John Wraith.
Yep.
Love the whole ensemble with like the cowboy hat and just doing his thing, and he's got some swag. He's got some swag, and for him to come up against Sabretooth, or Victor Creed rather, and try to use his powers to outsmart him, and he gets sadly bested by Victor, because Victor says that John Wraith is predictable, which sucks.
Yeah, and originally the movie was offered, the role was offered to former MMA star Quentin. Probably most notably, he was in the A-Team. He played
Hmm.
the Mr. T role from, the role that Mr. T played in the TV show in the early 80s. That's the role that Quentin Jackson played in the A-Team. I think they made the right call with will.i.am. I think Quentin Jackson is a much more imposing person. Um, I don't think it would have worked as well. Marcy, do you have any will.i.am thoughts or favorite Black Eyed Peas song or anything you want to talk about?
Well, like King B. Johnson said, I've got a feeling tonight's going to be a good night. Probably not a good night for the character, though. But yeah, I mean, I definitely enjoy Black Eyed Peas
Yeah.
music. It's great to work out too, especially if you're doing some cardio. And I'm trying to look through like his Wikipedia to see like what he's been in.
Rio 2. It was an animation. He voiced one of the birds.
Okay.
I did not see that. So,
it's a cute movie. I really enjoyed it.
He's been on the Cleveland Show. Okay. He was 13 episodes on the Cleveland Show as Bernard Bernard. He's been on The Voice. Obviously, that's playing himself. He's been on The Rookie, I guess. Okay.
Madagascar, Escape to Africa.
So we just need to brush up on our will.i.am movies and TV shows.
We do.
It's
Fun
like
addition for sure.
Yeah. It's like a will.i.am like animated universe. Apparently, he's just all over the place in these animated movies, just getting those checks. I appreciate it.
Do what you got to do.
Let's talk about Kayla Silverfox, who is the Wolverine's love interest in the movie, played by Lynn Collins. And I gotta admit, like I've never seen this actor before, and I haven't seen her since. This movie was the role was actually offered to Michelle Monaghan, who turned it down because of scheduling conflicts. You don't know who Michelle Monaghan is. She's a face that you'll pretty familiar. She's been in a lot of stuff.
She was John Wick's wife, wasn't she?
That I don't know. I know she was in
the same person.
I don't know. I'm not sure.
I'll look it up.
Yeah, she was in one of the Mission Impossible movies, and she's been in like some rom-com kind of stuff from looking at her IMDb. But Lynn Collins, like Marcy, are you familiar with this actress? Like I thought she did a fine job. I haven't seen her since and didn't see her before this.
Looked like somebody I knew, like not somebody. She looked like an actress I knew, but then when I looked her up, I was like, oh, that's not who I'm thinking it is. And then I couldn't remember who I thought it was. But she's been in stuff. She's been on 13 going on 30 as Wendy. I don't even remember.
She was the fiance to Mark Ruffalo's character. She was the weather girl that was married him in the end. Yeah.
I don't remember her because I didn't really care about that character. I was rooting for Jennifer Garner's character. So yeah, she's been in like some stuff. I think she just looked like another actress that is a character actress. But apparently there was some controversy when she was cast because she is not Native American herself. So interesting choice. And I think probably if this had been made today, they probably would have tried to get an actress from Native American background.
Yeah, no, I totally agree that would happen for sure. The character she plays, Kayla Silverfox, has the power of tactile hypnosis, which allows her to control or convince others to do things that she wants to do just by physical touch. And obviously you see that in the movie when there's these two guys are parked on a bridge, they're trying to get by. Logan gets out, it's like, hey, you're gonna move your car or whatever. And she just puts her hand on the guy's shoulder and tells him, like, okay, just relax, calm down. Because they were gonna be murdered by Wolverine right there. So at that point you can tell she's a mutant, but still I thought like when she dies in the film, quote unquote dies, I think it's pretty affecting a little bit because like, Wolverine's found this life in Alaska. He's in Canada. In Canada, he's gotten away from his brother. He's gotten away from all the wars and the battles and all the rounding up mutants and stuff. And so I thought like when I first saw the movie, I was like, oh, wow, they're just going to kill her. But then of course she's not dead. She comes back.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I like she beautiful woman. Like she's just very attractive. And I even while watching this movie for the first time and it's in full entirety, seeing her put her hand on the guy to like calm him down. I'm like, oh yeah, she's mutant. I just don't remember obviously what that power is, but I'm like, she's totally a mutant. And even Logan, poor Logan, like asks if that her power of persuasion has ever been used on him, and she's like, well, you didn't stay in the car now, did you? And I'm like, you didn't touch him. So so anyway, but yeah, that was for me, it was like, oh, like she was in on the whole thing all along, like,
against her will though.
Well, but then it raises questions for me, because it's like, was she only with Logan from the was she with him on her own free will, or was she only with him because Stryker said you need to, domesticate him, if you will, and wear him down and whatever, so my evil plan can work out? Or did Stryker intercept her at one point to persuade her, because that's when she learned that Emma Frost, spoiler, her sister. Well, it's not really Emma Frost.
No, it's not. I mean,
it's not. It's similar
powers,
to Emma Frost,
right.
but yeah, her sister has been captured by Stryker, and so he's like, you do this for me, I give her back. So for me, it's just kind of like, did that happen from the jump, or did that happen like during their relationship? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Speaking of jump, no, actually not. This guy doesn't jump at all. Let's talk about Kevin Durand as Fred Dukes, aka the Blob, who, Wolverine says Bub, and Fred Dukes thinks he says Blob because he's put on a lot of weight after the years of the team breaking up. The task force, not Task Force S, they're the X. They're what are they called? Something X, Team X or something. In the X-Men universe, it's all
X-Force.
That's different, actually. The X-Men Force is different. Yeah. X-Men, of course, are different. Task Force X is the PC name for the Suicide Squad in DC. So that's why it's kind of confusing they would use that. But anyway, thoughts on Fred Dukes, Marcy?
Definitely, I don't think they would have added that if the movie was made today too. I think people would say it's very problematic to just have his thing be that he got really fat.
Yeah.
I also don't think it made a lot of sense back in did David Harbour have to be for them to say no, we are not going to cast you in this because you're too fat for this really fat dude?
I am back. I'm not sure what happened.
Yeah, same thing happened to me. I have no idea what happened.
You all went away, and I was talking to myself, and I was like, "Wait, did I?"
See, on my end, y'all.
It was your mutant powers, Marcy.
Yeah, Marcy's like, this is going to be a solo show. I'm taking
right. I'm taking over, Bubs.
Yeah.
She's like, this is Watcher Force now.
There we go. So
now we're going to talk about the Care Bears. That was my plan all along.
There we go.
Now that they're gone.
The real mutants, right? The Care Bears.
Care Bear power.
There we go.
My own agenda of cuteness. No, yes. So I don't think it would have been made today. Problematic. Also didn't make sense back then. Weird addition. They could have done more with that. How fat did David Harbour have to be for them to say, we're not going to cast you in this because you're too fat to play this fat guy that's already wearing a fat suit? Hopefully that was just what they told him because they didn't want to cast him, because otherwise, David Harbour has been big before, but not obese like that. So, but he's, famous now. He's been on Stranger Things and lots of other things.
Well, he's actually the MCU. He's Red Guardian in the Black Widow movie. So,
right.
And he's going to be in the Thunderbolts, which comes out next year. So, David Harbour's doing okay for himself.
He got ripped. He's doing fine now. So,
yeah,
doing great.
Exactly.
Yeah, I have a hard time though believing that was Kevin Durand. I don't know. The only other movie I think that he was in Hitch, and he played such a douchebag in Hitch, And then I see him in this, and I'm like, that's the same guy. Like even before he was Blob, right? Even when he's with the team and they're trying to take down whomever it is in Africa, I was just like, okay. But he had his moments. He had his funny moments, of course, especially in the ring with Logan. And
Yeah.
I felt bad for the guy in the end, because I think Victor Creed went and finished him just like he did with other characters. So it's like, that's not good. That's not nice.
I mean, he deserved an on-screen death, I think. Right?
I don't know.
he's
It might
gonna
have been a little too much.
Yeah, maybe so. I don't know. I'd like to see, like, could Creed take him down? Victor Creed take him down? Because Logan was having some trouble with him, so it
True.
would have been interesting to see that. Speaking of someone else that Victor took down, let's talk about Dominic Monaghan as Bradley. Brittany, let you start with that because you mentioned his Lord of the Rings past.
Mary.
He's not in this movie very much. What'd you think
No.
about it?
Yeah, seeing him for the first time on screen, I was just like, wait a minute. Like, what are we doing? Are we crossing like universes here? We have will.i.am in one corner. We've got Mary from Lord of the Rings in another corner. It was just really
It's a
funny for me.
moment. It's a movie of the moment with the that time. It's just that
Yeah,
time when those
it
people were
was.
super popular. Yeah.
That's fair enough to say. Yeah, and seeing Bradley's powers, I kind of thought that maybe it was very similar to that of Charles Xavier, but it seemed like he was only able to manipulate like electricity, it seems, or machinery of that kind of nature. I'm not quite sure what his particular mutation is or mutant powers are, but given that we would later see him at like a carnival type thing and he's flicking on, flicking off the flashlight and has a crap ton of them in his little RV thing. I was like, okay, well, this is an interesting power, and the dude's a kind of a collector of sorts, I guess. Like, yeah, I mean, it was very short lived. Can't really comment too much on his performance just because very short lived.
Yeah. Marcy, any thoughts on Dominic Monaghan?
Cute little setup with his lights. Again, he didn't really do much. I felt bad for him when he got killed, but I was like, I guess that's part of the movie. But yeah, it would have been interesting if they'd done a little bit more with that character too. That's an interesting power, and it could have been interesting if they had known how to use it. But I guess he had to be the first sacrificial lamb.
Yeah, I mean, he was a big part of the team. He's the one who's controlling the airplane that they're flying in as they're heading to Lagos to look for the adamantium. So
all he had to do was just do like this thing. I was like, wow, like that's just easy. You just do this. And
yeah, that's why I was thinking like Professor Xavier or like Jean Grey, because they all would kind of like do something to use their mind, and it's just like, oh, okay, this is another telepath or something. But no, it was specific to electricity. I was like, okay, so this is cool. Like, Magneto manipulates metal and such, and this guy manipulated electricity.
Yeah,
love that.
So
it was useful for the elevator scene.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Was that your segue, Justin? Was that your segue?
No, I was actually going to talk about Marcy. I want to get your thoughts on another character, maybe your favorite X-Men character, Gambit, aka Remy LeBeau, played by Taylor Kitsch. What did you think about this? It's more than a cameo. He has a pretty decent sized role in this movie. What did you think about it?
I forgot that he was in it. So then when I was like, oh, we're gonna see Gambit. This is great. Yeah, it was nice to see him in a live action role. I think Taylor Kitsch did,
and alive.
Did a good job. Yeah, and alive, real life. Because it's kind of weird to love a cartoon character so much.
Yeah.
But I also thought that Jimmy's dad at the beginning looked a little like Taylor Kitsch, and was like, "Is that him?" And it wasn't. And then we see him later, and I was like, "But that's him, right?" So then obviously I looked it up afterward and was like, okay, like I knew that he was Gambit, but he also kind of looked a little bit like Jimmy's dad. So I was like, wait, did he do both of these? is. But no, it was good to see Gambit.
I can kind of see that though. I can kind of see the similarities between the two. Gambit, I mean, in this movie was fantastic. Taylor Kitsch, there's only maybe one or two other movies I've actually seen him in since, or maybe it came out around the same time. Annapolis was the movie. And no, was it called Annapolis? Battleship. It dealt with the Navy.
Yeah.
It dealt with the Navy. Rihanna was in it too.
He's also in John Carter, which is mentioned
Yeah.
here by King B. Johnson. Yep.
Yes. So yeah, I've seen him just in like a handful of movies. However, bravo on the accent, because we all know that Brittany loves a good Cajun accent, and I will not do it today, Justin.
Oh, you got to.
Oh, I have to?
You teed it up. Come on.
No, I did. It's like, how will I survive when you've gone so far away? It's like a signature thing of mine now at this point. It's too funny. Seeing him in his element, right? In New Orleans, he's doing his thing, playing around with the cards, and you see them spinning around from one hand to the other, and then he's charging them up when he's being challenged, and he totally just kicks Wolverine's ass out of the what is it, a bar, or I don't know what it is, whatever, the establishment.
Yeah.
And then he comes in with the damn stick. Like, that was so freaking cool to see him. And then just the outfit. I don't know. I loved everything about this adaptation of Gambit. Of course, we, like Marcy, I have a love for animated Gambit as well. But seeing a live action version of Gambit and actually like helping Wolverine was amazing. I love that. I felt very sad for Gambit in the end, though, when the ending occurred, but we'll talk about that when we get there.
And he's Canadian, so he did a good job at the Cajun accent.
Taylor Kitsch is Canadian? I did not know this.
I think I looked that up too, and I was like, wait, he did a good job with this accent. Where is he from? And I was like, Canada? Okay.
Okay. So we have an Australian playing a Canadian, because Jimmy Logan and Victor Creed are from Canada.
Right.
And then we have an American who's also playing a Canadian, Victor Creed. Yeah, very interesting. Very interesting indeed. The more you know. Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah, Taylor Kitsch, in 2009, it was a big time for him. He was also in Friday Night Lights, the TV series. He was a big character in that show. So I thought he did a great job as Gambit. I'm currently doing my rewatch of all the X-Men movies. I think this is the only movie where Gambit appears. I might be wrong. Maybe.
For now.
Well, famously, Gambit was going to get a solo movie, not with Taylor Kitsch, though. With Channing Tatum was going to play Gambit.
Yes, sir.
Before 20th Century Fox was sold to Disney, they were working on a Gambit solo film, which I guess would have come out like in 2019, 2020 or so. Not to spoil anything, but don't be surprised if you see Channing Tatum play Gambit in Deadpool and Wolverine in a couple months.
So exciting.
I feel pretty confident we're going to see him as that character.
I've heard the same rumor. I hope it actually like comes into fruition. Marcy, thoughts on Channing Tatum possibly gracing us as Gambit?
I could see that working. I haven't heard any rumors, so like now that you're saying this, like I'm very totally ready for this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I would be excited to see him. I think I've liked him in everything that I've seen him in, except for Magic Mike, just because the movie was boring itself.
Oh, okay.
I love him, but just kind of like the whole plot of the movie, I was like,
it's about Channing's life. What are you talking about?
True. I was like, there should just be more dancing. This is too much of like boring life. But no, interesting.
I agree. And to top it off, Channing is from Georgia, so he could, I think, pull off that Cajun accent very well. Like it's obviously not the same, but I think he's got it in him to pull it off.
Yeah, and I think he also has the comedic chops to go like toe to toe with Ryan Reynolds and Deadpool, and obviously, Wolverine. Hugh Jackman's great as that character in any kind of version, which I think we're going to see a very different version in this movie that we've seen
100%
in these movies. But yeah, no, I think he'll be a great addition. I can't say 100%, but I feel very confident we're going to see him as that character this summer. Moving on, let's talk about Agent Zero, played by Daniel Henney. Agent Zero is like the ultimate bad guy, just a just an underling, a superhuman assassin who's just down for whatever Stryker has him do. Any thoughts on this character? Brittany, I go to you first.
Not too familiar with Daniel Henney. I mean, he gave off that kind of bitch don't fuck with me kind of vibe, which I loved because it's almost like looking at Logan and Victor, but from a different lens in the same way. They're all kind of like similar to a degree because they each are like, don't mess with me, bub. But this guy like just embodied it. Like he's got that sort of official look to it, right? Especially when he showed up later when Stryker found Logan at the log, what is it called? Wherever he was working. And he comes in with the what's that?
He's working as a logger. Yeah.
Logger, yeah. And the Agent Zero was wearing the earpiece and he was just like quick on the draw, and it's just like this dude embodies like don't mess with me, right? I'm not too familiar with maybe what his powers are supposed to be exactly. Like, is he a mutant or
no? He definitely is. The way he's like jumping around like Super Mario
he did
Brother.
jump around.
Like, yeah, he's jumping around like crazy. He has like superhuman accuracy with his rifle, which we see him kill people in the movie. We'll get to that.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, he's just kind of a bad guy for bad guys' sake. There's not a ton to this character. Yeah. Marcy, do you have any thoughts on the character?
I just thought it was funny how when he's just kind of like the airplane or choppers down, he's like Huston or Strikers, like, but did you get Wolverine? Did you get Wolverine? He's like, is that all you care about? And I was like, no, that's sad because that is all he cares about. He doesn't give a shit about you.
He's like, I'm only dying over here.
Yeah.
Like maybe you should care about me for a second. Yeah, but also good on the writers to kill off that character almost immediately after he took out 2 innocent people and then tried to say, oh, Wolverine like just killed 2 innocent people. I'm like, bitch, no, you did not. So yeah, I was, and also the scene where Wolverine walks away from the chopper, right? He flicks sparks the gas or whatever it is to catch fire on the chopper and just has like that hero shot walking away. It's just so badass.
That was
Angel Bassett vibes whenever she's walking away from the burning car.
Yeah.
That is also very 2009 thing where there were always these like slow motion, like Denzel Washington and Man on Fire. There's all these other movies where that stuff happens.
Iron Man, like walking away from the explosion, right? Like
I think in this movie, and maybe just because it's like me seeing it through the 2024 lens, it's so cheesy because it's like it's super slow mo and like he's so
his hair is just so perfect.
Yeah, it's just to me, it's the cheesiest moment in this movie. Like that's what I put on my list. Cheesy moment. That was the one. Like obviously, I'm glad that Agent Zero gets his, but it's very silly the way he walks away. Let's get to the, I think maybe the best character of the movie besides Wolverine. That's Ryan Reynolds as Wade Wilson. Obviously, he would go on to play a much different version of this character, a much more lucrative version of this character that we will see, of course, in Deadpool and Wolverine. But and we've kind of touched on this a little bit, but Brittany, what did you think about Ryan Reynolds in this movie as Wade Wilson? Because originally it was just going to be a cameo. And the role kind of increased. And so, he had more to do with the movie. But before this movie came out, Ryan Reynolds was trying to make a Deadpool movie since 2003. And it wasn't happening.
Yeah.
So what did you think about what we saw from him in this movie? And did it kind of lead to what we would see later on in other films?
Oh, 100%. Especially as Wade Wilson, like you said earlier, when we see the interactions that Wade has with the others in the like in the plane when they're flying to Lagos, that he's talking about his sword and he's just blah, 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 blah. And that's very characteristic, of course, of, Wade Wilson, Deadpool. Just doesn't shut up. And for Wolverine to be like, man, you really just don't stop, do you? Right. The fact that Ryan also improvised one of his lines in the elevator scene where all these men are, just, crammed together. And it's something about like, all of us men all on high protein diets or some shit like that. And it's just very true, obviously,
he's like,
given that.
it's a dream come true to be in the elevator stuck with, 5 other guys on an all protein diet. Yeah.
But again, the very fact that he improvised that line is so indicative of what we were going to get when he would reprise his role as Wade Wilson Deadpool in, of course, his Deadpool movies. So yeah, it was teed up so well. I absolutely loved Ryan like using the swords when he was taking down all the bad guys in that building. It was just so fast, so quick, and very different, of course, from what we're used to now with Deadpool. But I enjoyed the difference. Now, when he became Weapon 11, and started getting a little cray cray, just a tad bit cray cray. But yeah, overall, Ryan killed it, and for the fact that he later on would be able to take on the role of Deadpool and make it into his own is just awesome. I love the fact that he is able to be the same character, but in 2 different adaptations of that character.
Yeah. And Marcy, I think this character, maybe it's a little on the nose or maybe on the mouth, because Stryker early in the movie says, if you just shut your mouth, he's like, you'd be the perfect soldier. Later on, when Deadpool, or whenever Wade Wilson is transformed into Weapon 11, his mouth is sewn shut. What'd you think about that?
I'd forgotten that happened. So when I saw that, I was like, oh, wait, what? I was like, oh, yeah, that's effective, I guess, if you need somebody to shut up. But I loved that they did that. That was hilarious. And I just loved him in this movie. I think everybody was able to add like some comedic element to just insert into the movie and make it good. And I think the way he's able to do it is different than a lot of people. And that's why he was able to take Deadpool and make it his own. So it's nice to see how he's kind of evolved, because in 2009, he was relatively well known, but hadn't blown up, obviously, like he went on to do after Deadpool and some of the other movies he's been in. So it was just nice to see an earlier version of him and be like, oh, like you're going to go on to like be so big because of this character. So it's nice to see that.
Yeah. I really think that, like, looking back, this is really, where the Deadpool things. I mean, it didn't, not where it started for him, but it's definitely where it's like, hey, this can be a reality. And I think, movie executives also were like, hey, we can do something with this character, because like I said before, for 6-7 years before this movie was made, he was trying to get this movie made at New Line Cinema, and it just wasn't going to happen. But I think after they saw him, they're like, okay, we can do something with this. Now, the character is pretty wacky compared to what the character actually is and how he portrays him in Deadpool 1 and Deadpool 2. But I think he is a highlight in this movie. And but still, it's so strange that all of the mutants that they round up, they're given that they're taking their powers to create the pool, as Danny Huston calls him, the Deadpool, the mutant killer. And probably the thing that's the craziest is he has all these powers, including the Cyclops, heat vision or whatever you want to call it. And that's something about this movie. Like I said, I haven't seen this movie in several years. When I watched it, I completely forgot that Cyclops is in this movie. I forgot that Professor X was in it. And Storm was supposed to be in it. A younger version of Storm was supposed to be in the movie. It was, however, cut. It was in like a trailer. They cut her from the movie. I kind of like they did. I wish they didn't have Cyclops, because it's one of those weird, like, it's kind of like Star Wars, where, when you do prequels, like, you don't want to mess with this, like the first movie. And like, obviously they still made it where Cyclops and Wolverine never technically see each other, I guess. But I don't know. I just don't like that stuff. And Brittany, that it's like Obi-Wan Kenobi, that show, like, why
It doesn't add up.
No, it doesn't add up. It's like,
Yeah.
why, if you're going to make something new, or if you're going to do a prequel, fine, but don't have it connect so much with the original stuff that you actually mess with it, or leave people going like, what? Like, so of course, then with Wolverine, you have the magic adamantium bullet to the head that wipes his memory. So that's also kind of a very silly part of this film. But
Yeah, it kind of, while watching this movie and then seeing just how things kind of were breaking apart in a way and just not fully adding up in the end,
Mhm.
it gave me, funny enough, Star Wars Rise of Skywalker vibes. It's like they were rewriting it and reshooting things as they're, filming, right? And it's a mess. It's really difficult. The Cyclops thing I felt was very like, okay, we need to somehow allude to this. I didn't like how it was done, because if I'm not mistaken, I think there were supposed to be other X-Men origin movies that were like of Magneto and of Professor X, but then those ended up turning into like the first class movies,
Right.
right? So that's how they were able to kind of get around that. It's like cool, but like leave it for that. Don't necessarily bring in Cyclops into this when this is not going to lead anywhere, because it ultimately really didn't. So I agree with you. I didn't like the idea of having a Cyclops in there. Also, Cyclops, my dude, you were just captured and now you're breaking free of prison and they're trying to figure out how to get out of there. And then he hears a voice in his head. It's like, Scott, this way, left, or like, come to me, whatever he says, the voice in his head.
Yeah.
And Scott's all like, go to the left. How do you know? Trust me. Dude, you wouldn't freak out if you just heard some random British man's voice in your head and think, oh, I better trust him because he has a very soothing, trustworthy voice. Dude, no. I would freak out first and then probably run in the opposite direction because I don't want to go towards the voice. It's like a fly going to the light. I can't help it. It's so beautiful, and then dies. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, that's my little tangent right there. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk.
In fairness to Scott Summers, I don't think he could see very well. And so he had to kind of go by voice command.
I'm so disappointed in you, Justin.
Voice command.
I'm just
Voice
like,
command.
yeah. So anyway,
oh Lord. Did y'all also pick up on one of the prisoners, or the mutant prisoners in Stryker's Island, was Quicksilver? Did y'all pick up on that?
I did not.
Oh.
No.
So Quicksilver was the one who was kind of like straddled, and every time he moved really, really fast, it would kind of like bounce him around in the cage.
Okay.
That's
That makes
Quicksilver.
sense. Okay.
Yeah.
Of course, we would get Quicksilver in that universe not too long after. I think in like what Days of Future Past, I believe, is when we get Quicksilvers. Yeah. So
Yeah.
We've talked about all the cast. And we've hit some of the big moments. Let's hit some other moments or just some favorite stuff we have. I want to talk to you about the opening scene. Now, Brittany, you talked about the opening credits montage, which I think is phenomenal. Going through those wars.
yeah.
Now, I have a question of like, why are these Canadian mutant brothers like fighting all these American wars? Like, I guess they're just going where the fighting is. Like,
Allies. I don't, they're helping.
Yeah.
They're helping their American brothers.
right.
I don't know.
It just seems like, I don't know. Like,
I
guess they're just looking for a fight.
I also kind of like, this is a stretch, but I also kind of, it gives me Twilight vibes in the sense of like the Cullens would constantly move around because then no one would know them. No one would take notice of them aging. And so for them, they probably couldn't stay put in Canada for very long because then people would be like, oh, you brothers or you two like don't age. What's up with that? And then again, I think in their nature, they were just bloodthirsty to some degree until Logan was just like, I've had enough. Like there has to be more than just seeking out a fight and death and that kind of thing. So I figured they keep moving around just so that they can stay as anonymous as possible, I guess you could say. And then if they learn, hey, we can't die, might as well, fight. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's as good of a theory as any. Marcy, I want to get your thoughts on the opening scene, however, which I think is a little odd. We have, as we mentioned before, little Jimmy, he's sick and he's with his friend Victor. His dad comes up, or who he thinks is his father, comes up to see him. And then there's a commotion downstairs and the little kid gets triggered. He gets his bone claws, ends up killing his biological father. My question for you, why do you think all this stuff is happening? It just like, it's so for me, it was like very disorienting to open the movie that way because you're just like, what did the other guy do to like what? Like what's going on here?
Yeah, is this some kind of like weird love triangle? Because that's what I thought happened. Like,
Maybe, yeah.
so I was like, that wasn't fair to this dude that got killed. He's just trying to like be with his kid. Um, and then like drunk dude, the dad. I assume he was drunk. He was drunk, right? He had to have been
I
drunk. But I was like,
think so.
wait,
Yeah.
what? Like, what is happening? What is this weird love triangle? And then did he also kill the mom? Because then, like, do we know what happened to their mom? Um, does she know they're mutants? Like, what happens to her? Does she just send them off to war all the time? Like,
They ran away.
They
yeah,
ran
okay.
away.
That's
Yeah.
oh yeah, that's what happened. They had to run away because
I don't think
people would
the
freak out.
mom knew because she like looked at Jimmy and was like, "What are you?"
What are you? That's right. Yeah. So
Yeah.
instead of being like, thank you for maybe saving me, because he could have like shot me too, just like he shot who you thought was your dad. I'm gonna be sad that you killed this asshole and like now you have to run away. So yeah, I'd forgotten that the mom was just kind of like disgusted by it or just kind of shocked, but that was weird. That's a lot of trauma. So I understand why I guess they feel like they have to go and keep fighting.
I feel like for that era, it's 1845-ish. Not that like witchcraft would have been a big thing like it was in the 1600s, 1700s, but to have witnessed that of your child whose bones just like protruded their skin, and you also witnessed the murder of his biological father, that obviously had to be weird.
Yeah.
There's no explanation whatsoever. And from what we know now about how the mutant gene is passed, it's usually from the men, because that was discussed in X-Men X2. It was in X2 when they go to Bobby's house and they're having the discussion and the mom's like, "Oh, this is all my fault." No, actually it's the dad's fault that he carries the gene. So I wonder if maybe the biological father happened to be aware of some sort of mutation within his own self, or if it was simply, "Hey, we fucked. That's my kid. I need to, make things right." Simpler times back then. I don't know.
No DNA testing. I guess that wasn't simple. Maybe the mom said something about the biological dad, and that's why new dad was in Jimmy's life. Yeah, very
Yeah.
interesting. Wrap it
Very
up, guys. Don't, no matter what the time is,
Oh,
you don't
Lord.
want to be killed by a kid who thinks you're not his biological dad.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh boy.
With bone claws also. Um I want to get to I think two of my favorite like lines in the movie that I think honestly just funny stuff. When Stryker later on is trying to recruit Logan back into the team or to do his bidding, I like how he sees Logan. He's like, "You haven't aged a day," and Wolverine has a cigar in his mouth and he's like, "Clean living." I just that made me laugh. It's just the delivery of the line because it's like obviously smoking is bad for you, but he's like, "Clean living." And then my second favorite like funny line in the movie is a little bit later. Stryker's like, "Your country needs you, Logan," and he's like, "I'm Canadian." I thought that was great. Like,
Yeah,
dude,
I've already
that was
fought enough for
yeah,
America. Like, let me just be Canadian for once and cut down
yeah.
the trees.
Um, in kind of classic, like obviously the movie is X-Men Origins, Wolverine. We get a lot of like answers to questions that maybe we never had. For example, we get the story that Kayla tells of Quetzalcoatl, I guess how you say that,
yeah.
which means the Wolverine. That's how he gets his name. She actually names him. Brittany, what'd you think about this story about the moon and the stars and the Wolverine?
Yeah, it's a great story. There's a lot of stories of different cultures that have often talked about the moon and how it's lonely, and how it once had a lover. And so, they try to tie it into how us humans, people can relate, right? And so to have the translation of the Wolverine, and for Logan to honor her in his way, having agreed to be a volunteer in Stryker's experiment, and he wanted new dog tags instead of it just saying Logan or whatever, that he wanted it to say Wolverine. And then, of course, this would play into the very, very first time we meet Wolverine in X-Men, X-Men 2000. And Rogue asks him, like, were you in the army? And it says, Wolverine on it. So that was pretty cool. I liked how they kind of gave an explanation as to how he got the name, and it was by honoring his who he thinks dead girlfriends. And yeah, that was cool. I appreciate that. I appreciate some of those explanations. Like I said, with even how we first see the bones coming out of Wolverine's knuckles, right? Because initially we were just introduced and he had the adamantium, but he didn't know, he didn't remember. He had glimpses in his nightmares or visions or whatever. And then you kind of get that explanation, of course, with the experiment being done. And I'm all about seeing a nude Hugh Jackman. Just saying, that was great for me.
Well, you're getting to what I think is kind of like the most classic scene in the movie, which is when we see Logan become Weapon X. He gets the adamantium added to his body. At this point in the story, Stryker. So Kayla has been killed by Victor, and Wolverine will stop at nothing to get revenge. Little does he know that Stryker is working with Victor. So Stryker convinces Wolverine that, you need to get this adamantium added to your body. That'll make you indestructible, which to me is like, I guess the plan was for Stryker. It's like, well, we'll test it on him and then give it to Weapon 11. Is that kind of the idea? Because otherwise you're just kind of creating an adversary who's unbeatable and who can't really die. And I mean,
Well, I think for Stryker, he figured that if he killed Kayla, Logan would fall in line and do his bidding, with the understanding that in the very end, Logan could take out Victor whenever he needed to. But when Stryker was heard saying wipe his memories, that's when Logan woke up and
Right.
ran and what have you. So now he's got like a personal vendetta against Stryker because he's wanting to keep his memories. He's wanting to remember Kayla and his life and what have you. So that was the moment, of course, that Logan became the adversary to Stryker. I think otherwise he would have fallen in line. I think he would have done just about anything if it meant that he could kill his brother in the end, because his brother killed the love of his life.
Him coming out of the water is a cool scene. Like that's like the
Okay.
most iconic. And then afterwards, when he's trying to escape, he like claws the X symbol and then breaks through like the steel structure. Really cool stuff. After he gets away from the compound, he finds his way to the home of what I describe as Ma and Pa Kent, which of course Ma and Pa Kent is from Superman. But it's this elderly couple who takes on Wolverine, and they give him their son's jacket and their son's clothing. I think we're supposed to believe the son died in Vietnam. It's kind of what we're supposed to believe because they keep saying their son is gone or passed or whatever. So thankfully, conveniently, the son and Logan wear the same size clothes, and so he gets his jacket from them, and he's only with them for a little while before Agent Zero just murks both of them from long range. I mean,
Man.
Again, first time seeing this movie, I was surprised by how quickly the old people are and how viciously the old people are killed.
Yeah. Especially the wife. She's shown utter kindness to Logan during this whole ordeal, right? She even after Logan like destroys their bathroom sink and he's like, I'm gonna pay for everything. and she's like, all right, just come sit down. Like, just come sit down and have dinner. and it's just, I think for her, probably it's somewhat filling that void of having lost her son. And especially when she sees him, with the jacket. He's on the motorcycle, and she's just like, oh, like it fits you beautifully. Like for her, she's kind of maybe getting some closure, like, oh, I get to see my son one last time by this man wearing the jacket. And I love that this is the introduction of that jacket, because it's very similar to the one in the X-Men movie, the X-Men 2000 movie. So that was really cool. I like those little tie-ins, those little Easter eggs, here and there, even though this movie is supposed to be like a prequel, but obviously it's come out years after the first time we see Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. But yeah, these people are viciously murdered, and it broke my heart. I'm like, that's just so, it's just so sad. Marcy, your thoughts?
Yeah, that was not cool. I don't think I'd ever seen that part of the movie, so it was just kind of shocking that they were killed like that. Again, I definitely wasn't expecting it. Yeah, it was pretty sad. And then do we know what happened to the son? I guess we were just meant to infer that he died. Okay. Just making sure I didn't miss anything. But yeah, I mean, they were just very kind and accommodating, because they could have been like, you are like a weird stranger. We're not going to help you. Where are your clothes? Did you escape from some kind of mental hospital? And then you broke my sink. Like, that is way too kind.
And because he broke the sink, he's got to sleep in the barn because he can't destroy anything out there. I love the old man. Like the old man gives him a towel. He's like, cover up. I don't want you to give the old lady a heart attack.
Listen, he can give me a heart attack anytime. Let's go.
Yeah, go ahead, Brittany.
No, just the utter absolute kindness that were these wonderful people, and King B. Johnson said here, everybody's grandparents, hopefully. So yeah, that was really sweet. Logan gets to see kindness once again in the world, and of course he's crushed once he sees them murdered and escapes on the bike to take down Agent Zero, and has that wonderful slow-mo hero shot that is cheesy as hell, but hey, he can do whatever the fuck he wants. It's fine.
Well, from the old couple, he not only got like some like very quick like parent, kind of parental help. He got new clothes. He also got like you said, the motorcycle. And one of the cooler scenes is on the motorcycle, he's being chased, and he puts down the claw to make this like U-turn using his claw. I thought that was a pretty cool scene. I mean,
oh yeah, for sure.
Obviously the effects are not the best in this movie, but we talked about that. But
Yeah.
the U-turn thing was really cool. And just, he's avoiding the helicopters and everything that he's being shot at. So, cool action, even though it doesn't look the greatest.
For sure. Yeah, it was in the bathroom scene where he's examining the adamantium claws for the very first time up close, and that's when I looked at the reflection. I'm like, this looks like shit. The adamantium CGI looks terrible. It looks so cheesy. The lighting, I don't know, just really, really bad to me.
Yeah. Moving on to the movie, another funny line that I really enjoyed was when Logan, he meets up with John Wraith, who's played by will.i.am, and they're at the boxing gym, and he sees Fred Dukes for the first time in years, and of course we've learned that Fred Dukes has developed an eating disorder, and he's got this tattoo on his arm. And when we first meet the character, it's a woman that he was with the night before, and she, obviously she was smaller, and because he's gained so much weight, I like how Logan's like, he's like, I remember when that girl was like 85 pounds. Funny line. I don't know if tattoos work that way, but obviously, like, very funny line. And also another cool scene that like is silly, of course, is Wolverine boxing with Fred Dukes, and at the very end, he gets the upper hand on him, and the claws come out of the red boxing glove. Very cool. Like,
oh yeah,
if you're gonna screenshot to make a thumbnail, I would suggest that one. That's a pretty cool one. Any thoughts on the boxing stuff, Marcy?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was out of place to like have him be so fat, but it was cool to see Wolverine just kind of meet his match a little bit, right? It wasn't just kind of like, oh, like Wolverine's just gonna beat his ass. Like, no, he actually kind of had to work for it.
Yeah, exactly. Then we're moving on to New Orleans, and we get Gambit. We meet Gambit, which pretty cool introduction. But then Wolverine is after he's trying to find Stryker's Island, and then Victor is suddenly there, but then Gambit's fighting with Wolverine, even though Gambit escaped from Victor and seemingly Stryker. That part of the movie, I don't really understand why it's not why doesn't Gambit see that okay, Wolverine might not be my friend, but I know that Victor certainly is not. Brittany, any
Yeah.
theories on that, or can you explain it to me and maybe the audience?
I don't think I can truly, because that was one of the parts in this movie that I too was left scratching my head, because Wolverine had already identified to Gambit that he wanted to go to the island, that he wanted Gambit to take him there so that he could finish Stryker and company, right? I mean, he outright said it. And then for Gambit to be like, I was in prison there and I'm never going to go back and what have you. And it's like, okay, we get it, but this is your your moment to avenge or get revenge, whatever the case may be. Go ahead and team up with dude. However, I'll play devil's advocate for Gambit to maybe trust somebody that he just met and is telling him the things that he wants to hear. Then it could be a double cross.
Mm-hmm.
I get it. I understand both sides, but it still was very odd for us to witness that. We of course know that Logan's being truthful, and then we see Gambit interject himself in a fight that had absolutely nothing to do with him. He's trying to take out Wolverine, and Victor Creed is getting away. It's like, dude, go after the other one, you dumb ass. How else can I say it? So yeah, that was kind of silly. It wasn't fleshed out in my opinion.
Yeah. I think some of their fighting looked cool, even though it kind of doesn't make sense about how Wolverine cuts in half the bow staff, and then Gambit is using the staff, which I assume is made of wood, to climb into concrete walls. That part I didn't really. Yeah, I'm like, how does this work?
I mean, Gambit's power is being able to manipulate kinetic energy. So
Right.
I don't know if that's something that he's able to do even with a busted stat. I don't know, Justin. Yeah. This sequence was a little not fitting together well.
Looks cool.
Yeah.
Doesn't really make sense, but
no, it doesn't.
That's okay.
But it was cool seeing Wolverine use the claws to tear down the metal what do you call it? Stair balcony thing.
Oh, the stair, yeah.
Yeah.
Stairway,
and just gradually getting shorter and shorter and shorter until Gambit has no choice but to jump or die.
Yeah. Fast forwarding to another scene that I think this might be the second most iconic scene in the movie, just because of how it is parodied and made fun of in Deadpool 2 in the post-credit scene. But we get the introduction of Weapon 11. The door opens. We see the pool with his mouth sewn shut and the katana sword coming out of his knuckles, which, I mean, I don't understand the physics. So does he have the sword in his arms all the time? Can he move his arms? It's just
I think it's supposed to be similar to Wolverine's adamantium being part of his skeletal.
Oh no,
system,
I understand that, but
okay.
Claws coming out is a little different than a katana sword that's longer than your arm coming out of your arm. You know what I'm saying?
I wonder if it's telescopic to where it just shrinks back in when it goes in and just kind of grows out. Yeah, that if you're gonna have powers, I guess that's what you would want to have. That would help you. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, he was very attached to that katana. We learned that when he was still Wade Wilson. We very much saw how much he loved that thing. So for it to now be a part of him only makes sense.
With the mouth sewn shut, we see Hugh Jackman's character say, "Guess Stryker finally figured out a way to shut you up," which again, on the nose, on the mouth, they're just hammering it home. We get it. Like
So good.
Deadpool is the merc with the mouth, although he's not really Deadpool in this movie. It's very, very weird that they would take a character.
He looks like the figurine, like because we see that figurine in Deadpool.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was kind of a strange adaptation. So, let's try to count off the different abilities that Deadpool possesses, right? He's got the katana coming out of him, very similar to the adamantium. He's got the Cyclops laser eyes.
Yep.
He's got the transport ability that John Wraith had.
Yep.
He also has what was it? Help me out, y'all.
Well, he has the healing factor also that Wolverine has. Yeah.
Exactly. So the whole idea is Stryker is an experimentalist, right? He is trying to create the perfect weapon to use. And we also have failed to mention this. We do get a shot of a very young Jason, who is Stryker's son. Jason has the heterochromia, which are the two different colored eyes. It's very indicative, of course, of the Jason that we saw in the first movie, who is a mutant. And Stryker has like this mission, of course, to pretty much end all mutants if he can. And how do you do that? You use a mutant. Because that just makes all the sense in the world.
Later on in the movie, how do you shoot someone who's been packed full of adamantium? You shoot him with an adamantium bullet. I guess that makes sense. I don't know.
It's not going to kill him. He's just going to lose his memories.
As Stryker says, his brain may heal, but his memories won't grow back.
And we know this how? Like,
do
we
memories grow?
experimented?
Like, do memories grow, or they're just?
I mean, like memories convert. You have short-term memory that will convert into long-term memory. So.
Yeah, but like either you remember something or you don't. Like, it's not like you don't grow your memories. You're not like, yeah, I remember I had French fries yesterday, and then like 2 days from now, it's like I had French fries and tater tots, and then like 3 weeks later, I also had a bacon cheeseburger. Like, that doesn't either kind of. Yeah.
Now you're just delusional, Justin.
Yeah, right. I don't know. I think I'm like.
And who that they tried that out before to where they would know that
exactly
like their memories would be gone. Yeah, lots of like hazy areas, very morally gray areas.
It wasn't fleshed out that much, honestly. And it's like, and we know this to be a fact. How many other people have you injected adamantium and tried this out? Like, come on, let's be real. Also, the guy's got healing powers.
Yeah.
The fuck.
What did y'all think about the final battle where it's Deadpool versus the brothers? Victor's back, and they're actually back to back with Wolverine, trying to fight off this mutant killer atop a nuclear reactor or something on 3 Mile Island. Marcy, what did you think about the climactic battle at the end?
That I had seen before, so when I was rewatching, I was like, yes, I've seen this part. I remember this part. Kind of, I guess, an iconic scene for this movie. I love how Victor was like, nobody gets to kill you but me. Like, that is such a sibling thing. Like, I can beat up my sibling, I can talk shit about them, but like if somebody else tries to do it, like, no, like I'm the only one who can do that. So I think it was just kind of like a great climatic scene of like, yes, I will kick your ass, Wolverine, but if somebody tries to kick your ass, no, like we can kick their ass together and then I can finish you off. So it was great.
What do you think?
I'm just laughing that I accidentally removed you from the podcast. My bad. Didn't mean to do that. Okay. I'm not trying to Victor Creed and Deadpool you right here, right now. Sorry, Justin. I love you. Okay. The fighting scene was cool. It gives me great anxiety, of course, while watching this scene because they're on top of a nuclear reactor. They don't have that much space to work, footwork and
like why fight there? Like why make it tougher on yourself?
Like why did you climb?
Yeah, you're fighting a guy who can teleport. Like it's
exactly
make it tougher on yourself. Like geez.
Yeah, it's kind of silly. Then to ultimately see that they use the power of like Cyclops's powers from Deadpool to use it against him, right? So the lasers are going off. Wolverine's using his claws to, bounce the lasers off of him, and then here comes Victor Creed and able to take off Deadpool's head, and because apparently that's the only way that you're going to kill someone who's got healing powers is detach the head, right? And so we see him, fall dramatically into the reactor, and everything's collapsing, all hell's breaking loose. Kayla's dying over here somewhere else, and Gambit is, I don't know where the fuck Gambit is, and these kids are now going with a stranger who's spoken through the mind of one Scott Summers. Shit's happening. Like, shit's happening on this island, right? So, I mean, it's fine. This is probably the one scene that I always, when it's on TV, I always like come up on this scene, and it's just like, oh, okay, it's the end. So, which is fine. I think for me, what's more climactic in a sense is the fact that Wolverine is no longer able to recall his memories because he's been shot by the adamantium bullet, and then it's like, oh, okay, well that explains, quote unquote, how he has no recollection of who he was prior to meeting Rogue and Professor X and all this other stuff. So yeah, and then you get the mid-credit scene, or the post-credit, right, where is Deadpool really dead?
He was decapitated, but no, he the head has fallen off, and we see him, like, the mouth is no longer sewn shut somehow, and he says shh. That's how the post-credit scene ends.
If he had said time to go to work, would have lost it. Would have absolutely lost it, because that's something that Deadpool, of course, says.
Or maximum effort or something, yeah.
Maximum effort. That'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
But
then
we skipped over the mid-credit scene, though.
we did. I was
Yeah, Kayla, before does Kayla die? She dies. That's right.
She
Yeah.
does.
Before she dies, she gets a hold of Stryker's foot. She touches him with her powers of persuasion. She tells him to start walking and just keep walking. And what we see is, the military police like find him and detain him for the death of General Munson, who he killed earlier in the movie.
Because he's a patriot.
There we go. Right.
Yeah.
Marcy, what'd you think about the mid-credit and the post-credit scene?
Love seeing terrible white men get their comeuppance and face consequences of their actions. I think it's super fitting to talk about today.
Oh, yes. I love that.
But I kind of wish she would have made him shoot himself. I mean, he's done terrible, terrible, terrible things. I don't think that would have been bad, right? Like all the shit he's done to these mutants, and then to unbeknownst people. But yeah, I guess if you're gonna make him just kind of walk and forever and just kind of not stop, kind of like Tom or Forrest Gump, just kind of walk off into the sunset, keep walking, and then
I just felt like running. Sorry.
Yeah. And then he was just kind of shocked, but because he didn't know what the hell's going on. He's just I think I'm just walking. I don't know why I'm just walking. So it was perfect. I always love to see him get his comeuppance. So
yeah, and you see his shoes, and his shoes are worn out from all the walking. I thought that was kind of cool.
Total sidebar, because it just popped in my head. But the moment when Logan is on Stryker's island, he's in the facility. Stryker is observing Weapon 11 being operated on, right? And Logan sees Kayla, realizes, oh, she's been working with Stryker all along. He says his little piece to her and then walks away. We see him actually walk out of the facility and appear to never return. Mm-hmm. And when Victor is having it out with Stryker about, you told me that I was our bargain, whatever. And Stryker's like, yeah, no, not really. You're my best soldier. I'm not going to do this to you. And then out of nowhere, Logan pops back up in the facility, no longer wearing the jacket and clothes. He's just in his traditional white, wife beater tank top thing. Fabulous, by the way. I'm like, Where did you come from? We watched you walk out the front door.
I mean, he came back because Kayla was being held by Victor, and
No,
he
no,
heard
no.
her scream. Yeah.
It's not that. It's not that. But it's like, how did he get back into the facility without being seen or
Well, I mean,
heard?
he
Because
just
between,
walked out and then he walked back in.
but
He
he was
wasn't.
behind them. He wasn't in front of them. He popped up behind them.
I think he just heard it, and like they're right there. Like he wasn't very far away from.
No,
He
no, no.
just walked out.
You're not understanding what I'm saying. Is he would have had to enter through the front door again, and they would have seen him. But when the camera goes back into inside the facility, he pops up from behind where they're standing, not in front of them when he walked. That's my point. That's
Okay.
all I'm trying to say. Continuity, people. It drives me crazy.
I don't think that was an issue with this movie. I mean, it was an issue, but like no one was worried about that. They're just like, let's try to get this movie done and in theaters before everyone watches the
Yeah.
bootleg version. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think ultimately even Hugh Jackman wasn't particularly thrilled with how the
Yeah.
movie ended up. So, and I think that's why they would end up doing the Wolverine to kind of correct the things that they didn't get right for this movie.
Which is the next movie we're going to talk about next week. And there was another post-credit scene that isn't available. It was, I think it was in certain select theaters where there's a post-credit scene that shows Logan like in a bar in Japan, leading to what
Oh,
happens
I
in
know
the
what you're
Wolverine.
talking about.
So that post-credit has been replaced by the now Deadpool scene that like some theaters had the Wolverine one, some had the Deadpool. So I'm not really sure what happened with that, but Disney
I feel
Plus,
like,
go ahead.
yeah, I was just saying, I feel like I've seen that mid credit that you're talking about somewhere, but I've seen it.
The movie currently the movie's on Disney Plus and on Max. I watched it on both, and they had both versions I watched had the same mid and post credit scenes. So I'm guessing the Wolverine one is a very rare mid credit scene or post credit.
I wonder if it's because of the fact that Disney and Max are going to like go into partnership, or already are they already in the partnership, or it's going into a partnership?
That's a little different thing. That's more of like a bundle. They're not really like content partners. They're just bundling their services. Yeah.
Because to me, then it would have made more sense to have like the same content on both platforms. You know what I'm saying? Not like, oh, we're going to show a special one for here and it's different on the other platform. Anyway.
Yeah. No, I think, because they're also still going to be separate for some people. So,
sure.
Yeah. I think it seems like this one version of the movie is the prevailing version that people have seen. And this other extra scene is just kind of out there in the ether and doesn't really have a life anymore. So, anyway, let's get final thoughts on the movie. Again, we're going to be talking about the Wolverine 2013's movie next week. But as far as final thoughts on 2009's X-Men Origins Wolverine, I'll go to Marcy first. Any final thoughts on the film?
No, overall, just okay movie. I actually think I liked it better than like X-Men 1 and like X-Men 2 for some reason. It was just, I don't know, it felt less.
I agree.
Tedious.
Yeah. I think it's more fun. It's a more fun watch. Like I don't think it's necessarily a better movie or a better story, but I think because it's Wolverine focused and because Hugh Jackman is so great in this role, I think like just watching him do things is kind of cool. And that's why I like these movies. Like the next movie I think is much better, and Logan is like one of the best superhero movies ever made. So, if you haven't seen these movies, definitely check them out. But no, I totally agree with you. Because I've watched all these movies lately, and like, this was a much more fun watch. Like, I don't think I would want to go back and watch X-Men 1, X2, or Last Stand again, like twice in the same day or something. That'd be a tough task, I think.
Okay, I'm gonna have the unpopular opinion of I like the other movies better. Okay. I don't know. I think because the fact that those were the first movies that of course, like everyone else, saw Hugh Jackman and X-Men team and all this, good stuff. I'm very partial to those movies, and for the reason that I actually did go see, I think X2 and Last Stand in theaters. I didn't see the very first movie in theaters. I was like, I don't know. How old was I in 2011? So, yeah, young Brittany over here. But
You were Weapon 11. Yeah, go ahead.
I was Weapon 11. Can you imagine what a time to be alive?
But no, your
So,
mouth was not sewn shut. So
and it never will be. Y'all come at me and see. Anyway, my mutant power is being from the hood.
Yeah.
So, so that being said, I really actually enjoyed the X-Men, X2, and Last Stand movies. I will admit it, I have watched all of them in one day because that's how much I enjoyed those movies.
Wow.
This one, for the very fact that it's taken me up until 3 days ago to watch it in its entirety, maybe speaks volume as to why I obviously haven't watched the movie from the get-go and, don't rewatch it, what have you. But anyway, I do love, of course, that it is Wolverine centric. I love the casting overall. And I think that's where I feel a lot of these X-Men movies have succeeded in it's in casting. It might not be always the story. It might not be like the look because we're maybe more partial to what the comics, outfits were and what have you. But I think they've always done well with casting. And I think this movie also does that justice, of course, because again, this is the first time that we got to see Ryan Reynolds as Wade Wilson, Deadpool. We would see him again later on, reprising the same character, but in his own image. So I think that's what's really cool. Liev Schreiber, once again, as Wolverine's brother was great. I love seeing them share the screen. But yeah, it's not terrible. It's also not great. But will I watch it now more so when it comes on TV? Yeah, probably. But background noise, right?
yeah, I gotcha. Now, Marcy, I kind of piggybacked on your point. Do you have any other final thoughts on the film before we get out of here?
No, I mean, good movie overall. I'm excited to see the next one that we're going to talk about.
Yeah. Next week, we'll talk about 2013's The Wolverine, which is also on Disney Plus. I think it's only on Disney Plus right now. You can obviously rent it through video on demand or whatever. But if you have Disney Plus, definitely check it out there. So that does it for this week. Now you know what we thought about X-Men Origins Wolverine. We want to know what you thought about the movie. And Brittany, how can people tell us?
So, like we always encourage everyone here who comes across our channel, first of all, subscribe. We really appreciate it. We
Please
have always enjoyed doing these pod reviews for everyone, and even more so when we're able to engage with our audience, just like today in our live chat with King B Johnson, who's been dropping a lot of comments here. Some great one-liners. We appreciate you being here as always. But yeah, subscribe, like this video if you've enjoyed our review, and don't forget, I can talk. Don't forget to hit that notification bell. That way, the next time we go live. And as Justin said, we will be coming back with the Wolverine review next week. Also, if y'all are into Anne Rice's universe of Interview with the Vampire, yours truly and Franklin Cooper are reviewing that as we speak. Season 2 is fire, y'all. Go check it out. And lastly, don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Threads. That's all at Watchers Basement. You can use that same hashtag, Watchers Basement, to help grow our audience. And we also have got audio podcasts for y'all over on Apple Podcast and Spotify. Be sure to follow us there and give us a 5-star rating.
Thank you, Brittany. I appreciate it. So for Brittany and for Marcy, I am Justin saying thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We will see you next time. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.
Have a good night, bub.